I mean, there's so many little things now. I mean, I don't know. Let's see where this goes. Look, if you dump more people onto a market, values go down. You get more programmers, the price of people pay for programming goes down. Like, I know in the beginning it doesn't do that, right? Like, because there's an imbalance of needs, right? The collapse has happened, right? It happened a long time ago, actually. It's still collapsing, so it's gonna do this. Things aren't linear. It's not a life isn't a video game. The difficulty I have explaining this to people, like, if you put more people through college, you get a shortage in the trades and falling prices for college degrees, right? Like, I don't know what to tell you. Getting the degree is not going down. Just having one, the value of one is going down. I don't know why this is hard for people to understand. It's also very hard to explain to people that their experience isn't the normal experience, right? So when you're an outlier, you don't know it. you can't tell the pretty girl what it's like to be fat. Like, it's just not gonna happen. So we're in this world where we're exposed to, we'll call it human variation. And we're just like, oh my God. And these people think this way? Of course they do. Okay. But if we need to interact with them in terms of conversation and have long, deep conversations on things they don't understand and we don't understand, because that's going to happen, then everything's going to get worse. Like, we need to stop. We need to put barriers back up and have interfaces and interactions, and the role of politeness and, things like that. Like, all of this stuff has to get fixed. And we're making it worse. Falling values for people with degrees correlates perfectly with the increase in degrees. Sorry. I don't know. And we're sending these people to college and they're just not qualified. They're not qualified. And, it helps to resort to, listen, in my industry, every day in front of a manager and our peers, we have to say what we did yesterday and what we're going to do today. The fact that you have to do this once for the week in an email is not likely to impress me as oppression. It's more likely that I'll get suspicious that you're a useless, lazy piece of garbage that shouldn't be paid any amount of money to do any amount of work. That's what's going to happen. People not being able to see that is fascinating to me. But it's you see it everywhere. And the tell is, and like, this is almost everybody, right? They lash out with an emotional argument. You can call it an ad hominem attack. That's a subgroup of emotional argument. But emotional arguments are the things to look at. Why is this person appealing to emotion? I don't know. Probably because they don't have a rational argument. And maybe they're right, even though they don't have a rational argument. That's possible. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. Like, you don't have a rational argument, I can't help you, right? Or I'm not gonna. Like, oh, you're really sad. Great pate, but I got a motor. So what? Like, not interested in your sadness. Just doesn't. And when you don't understand the history of things, like, this is a common pattern. It just, and we don't understand the history of computers. And, it's ridiculous. There is nothing in Rust that can't be written in C. I'm sorry. Like, those things don't exist. You want memory safety? Write a memory safe library in C and call that. It's not going to solve the problem you claim to be solving, by the way, because memory safety does not solve memory leaks. Right? And if you don't understand that, like, fair enough. Also, do something else with your life because you're stupid. Like, I'm sorry, but like, at a certain point, like, we got to get with it. We've shown too many people variables and recursion and told them they know how to code. Variables in recursion does not mean you know how to code. Like, lots of people who don't understand those concepts can do a better job at programming than you can. Oh my goodness. If you're not at the point where languages are boring because you can pick one up in 20 minutes, you are not good at software engineering. I'm sorry. And maybe you never will be, and that's okay. There's plenty of other jobs, and there's plenty of things within information technology that you can probably do and do well enough to add the value that you're getting paid for. These are not barriers, right? Someone's got to clean the toilets. Somebody's got to automate the infrastructure. Somebody's got to keep the electricity running and go up on trucks and fix lines. Like, all of these things have to happen. And if you do them, you are part of a beautiful, large system that's helping lots and lots. You want to help lots of people, right? Don't write software. Go fix something in the electric grid. You'll help far more people. Far more. Far more. Orders of magnitude more. You want to make a difference in the world? Yeah, go work at a water treatment plant. Right? Go work at a nuclear plant. Right? Help way more people than you're ever going to help with software. I mean, come on. Come on. What percentage of people use the software? It's not as much as you think. Think all the poor rural people in China without electricity are using compute. Oh, what about India? Oh, what about most of the continent of Africa? Oh, no. Oh, no. Computers is an elitist game. Yep. It is. And it's reliant on a bunch of stuff. And that stuff is way more important. Without electricity, your computer's not worth much, buddy. But I can run my computer on solar. You ain't running the internet on solar. Now you've got a computer island. Yay. What good is that? Good communications machines. That's about it. And that's the problem when we don't understand this history, when we don't do things in the right order, we don't have an appreciation for what came before and why, when we don't know why the tool was built. I'm not saying you can't find a new use for a tool. Maybe you can. Almost certainly you can't, by the way, but maybe you can. And if you do, maybe that's good. I got my suspicions, but it could be. But know what the tool is originally designed for and use it for that first before you go inventing a new use for it. Right. C++ was originally just macros in C. Regular old style C compiler, because C++ is really old. Garbage language, by the way, don't use C++, it's complete trash. Any language where you can name variables and methods and functions the same thing, but they're different because they're in different scopes, is just a recipe to shoot your foot off. Like, you're like forcing yourself, you're like putting the shotgun at your foot and pulling the trigger. Like, this is dumb. Don't write a language that does that. Like, scoping is important. And if you can't read scoping from the code easily through naming, then why would you transfer a variable and not transform it? All your variable transformations should happen inside contained code, a class or a function, right? And then when they come out, they shouldn't be named the same thing, because that should represent something else, unless it's being passed straight and then you rename it on the backside, which is possible, especially for variables that may or may not change, right? So input dataset versus output dataset, it's not the best way to name things, but it's better than naming it data on both sides, which you can do in C++. C++ won't care. You'll just have a hard time debugging. Right? It's not an object-oriented language, because objects need to have identity in an object-oriented language. I read this in a book years ago, in the 90s. It's like, what a brilliant observation. That's very succinct. I mean, I have my other reasons why I didn't think it was a good object-oriented language, but that was genius. I was like, oh. And the name of the book was something like Object-Oriented C++. But in the beginning of the book, he says it's not really an object-oriented language because objects don't have identity listed the properties of what an identity would mean in that situation. And right, it's not that nuanced. It's kind of easy to see. Oh, you can double up on naming. That means the name is a tag that goes back to a hash that you don't have access to. Great, thanks. That's obfuscation. That's what that is. So C++ is a deliberately obfuscated language. Now, but if you can write an OO framework in C from scratch, which is what Bjarne Stroustrup did, what are we talking about? Why do we need a new language? And if you want object-oriented C, just use Objective-C. It's genius. Absolute genius. It's brilliant. Oh, it's just so beautiful. Like, wow, that's not bad. I mean, I'm not saying it's flawless or anything, but if you needed to extend C, they did it correctly. Like, maybe you could do something better, but I doubt it. Like, Objective-C is pretty cool. I do not program in Objective-C. I've always wanted to. My next machine is in the shed. One of these days, I'll haul it out and see if it still works. Interface Builder is still like the best piece of software ever. That and the ThinkC original ThinkC ANSI compiler, genius tools. I don't know where those things went, but we need them back. We need them back. Yeah, I've never got Next Step to work. I should go work on that again. That was fun. I mean, I got it to work. I don't think I used it. It's been a while. I might have an image with Next Step on it for all I know. I got so much stuff. But hey, just pay attention. Read the history. Don't get caught up in the hype of today on anything. Like everyone's, oh, what's going on with Ukraine? What's going on here? Like, freaking chill out. Like, go study history, then move forward. Life is not a video game.